Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. This is the privacy edition with a little bit of security near the end. And today we're going to be talking about a variety of different little topics. These are recorded live Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you would like to catch the show live, that is the time to do it. Or, hey, you can watch these replays with the comments and stuff taken out. But you can head over to switchedtolinux.com if you do want to catch the replay. They go unlisted after the stream, but they are still there if you have the link, unless YouTube wants to, like, give me another community strike, then I'd take those streams down. But, you know, never know. But anyway, let's go ahead and get diving on in. First, an update on Audacity. Now, some people, when I released the Audacity video on Monday, and I was one of the last ones to release a video on it, and a lot of people are like, you should wait 3 or 4 days before you comment on something because they might change their mind. No, they changed their mind because a lot of us jumped on board and did videos and gave them a lot of feedback. Okay? No, we're not going to wait 3 or 4 days because after 3 or 4 days and nobody does anything, they think that it's okay to add Google to their application, and that's insane. Okay? Now, they didn't reverse course. The article here and a lot of the background says it reverses course on plans to add opt-in telemetry after outcry. Actually, it appears as though it's opt-out now. It's just not Google anymore. And this is another one of these things that you go way overboard and then you backtrack just a little bit and people are happy. No, I'm still not happy at Audacity. Now, their change here is such that I probably won't be jumping from the application at this time, but yeah, what they did seriously hurts trust, and their backtracking, as they say here, isn't really backtracking. So, of course, I did the whole video on Monday going into what they were going to do. They were going to put a combination of Google and Yandex. They're going to be collecting a lot of this information. They're going to be storing it, analyzing it, and whatever else to see what people are using and things like that. It caused a giant backlash. And then they come out and all these news articles are saying, oh, they reversed course. No, they didn't. No, they did not reverse course. They changed a couple things. The first thing they changed is that they are self-hosting all analytics instead of using Google and Yandex. So that is a good sign. They're using an open source alternative instead, and they're storing it. But the way they're reading it, it almost looks as though the new model is going to be opt-out, not opt-in. So right now, we are currently interested in SQL errors, application crashes, non-fatal exceptions. If one of these events is detected, a dialog box will appear that explains the nature of the problem and offers to send an error report to us. So that's like how Ubuntu is doing it. That is perfectly fine. I don't have a problem if the application pops up, detects the problem, pops up, and asks, would you like to send a report? However, this is what it says too. Additionally, the official builds, that by the way is going to be if they have a snap. They do have a Flatpak. They do have an app image. Any of these official builds is going to have this function. And if a distro does not change and alter this functionality, it might be here as well. Additionally, the official builds of Audacity will perform an update check on startup, which will send Muse the user's IP address that will be stored in a non-reversible hash, the OS version, the program version, and it says that check can be turned off by the user. So it almost looks as though they went from opt-in to opt-out. And I don't know, I didn't see a specific clarification, but they're still sending, of course, it's a hashed IP address. I don't want them to send any of that type of stuff to the for-profit company Muse. All right, so have they backtracked? Well, as far as not putting Google and Yandex in, yes, they did. Have they backtracked on telemetry? No. So all these articles come out saying Audacity backtracked. No, they actually didn't. They just changed how and what they're going to do. So nevertheless, that is there. This isn't bad enough that I'm necessarily going to jump off the platform, but nevertheless, it is something to keep in mind. All right, so compromised credentials. Google can now change your passwords for you. Yay! The Google is here to save you, guys. It's going to detect a problem and you're like, oh, it's compromised. We're going to change your passwords for you. Oh, please, Google, give me my own passwords back. So this is quite frightening. This, of course, is on the heels of what Google implemented a while back where they're checking your passwords against lists by taking the first little bit of your password, hashing it, and then comparing this to an online database they have of compromised passwords. And if you have a hash that matches, you have the ability to, they'll alert you to that. Now they're moving beyond that, like, hey, we can change the password for you. And so there you go. So here you go. Check passwords. One compromised password. Oh, at Twitter. Compromised. Well, Twitter itself. Never mind. So here you can go ahead and just go ahead and change it. So this is, Google is utilizing their own password managers now. They want you to store all your passwords in there. So, technically they would have access to that information. Kind of a no. If you need it, you need a password manager. Use something offline like KeePass XC. That'd be a good option, or at least something open source like Bitwarden. But yeah, this is a new trick for the Google Assistant. It can change your website passwords for you if it detects that there is a compromise. This is, to me, I don't know. I think this is too much control to give Google. What do you guys think? Is this too much? Let's not leave the Google trend yet. Google is getting even creepier. Changing passwords, that's nothing. This is even creepier. Of course, Google is working with Fitbit. Their parent company, Alphabet, is now taking and having access to all this Fitbit data. They're creating a health insurance company. They're trying to get into the health sector. So now Google announces a health tool that's going to identify skin conditions. Ooh, what is this weird-looking rash? Take several pictures of it, upload it to your Google account. HIPAA must not be a thing anymore. And it'll help you to identify what the skin condition is. It's a leper, man. Go to the priest, offer a sacrifice, and be cleaned. All right? Just telling you now. If it's white without a hair in it. So the company demoed it. Google's latest foray into health is a web tool that uses artificial intelligence to help people identify skin, hair, or nail conditions. Company previewed the tool at I/O today. It says it hopes to launch a pilot later this year. People can use their phone cameras to take 3 pictures of the problem area. For example, a rash on their arm. They'll then have answer a series of questions about their skin type and other symptoms, and then the tool gives a list of possible conditions from a set of 288 that it's trained to recognize. It's not intended to diagnose the problem. It'll just diagnose your problem for you. So here you go. Take a close-up photo. Ew. It's just like, does anybody else have like the Fregley's mole going through their mind right here? Yeah, I'm just gonna do want to help me name it? Come on, guys. There. Google decided to tackle skin conditions using AI because of their prevalence, says Karen DeSalvo, the chief health officer at Google Health. People are coming to Google to ask questions about skin conditions. We get about 10 billion annual skin condition queries. Yeah, guys, this is why if you do need to check symptoms, please don't use Google and use the Tor browser bundle. So the Tor browser bundle on there, if you need to Google what your little weird thing on your skin happens to be, if you want to name, Fregley's magical mole or something, please don't use Google, use something else, and use Tor, because you don't need these search engines tracking what you're searching for in that respect. So there we have it, folks. Well, the Pentagon is planning to monitor social media of the military personnel for extremist content. Of course, this current administration, extremist content means you voted for Orange Man bad, and therefore the Gestapo is going to come and put a black bag over your head, all right? You're going to disappear in McGreedy's black bag. Guys, if there has ever been a movie that I think is closest to where our possible future reality might be, it might possibly be V for Vendetta. And you have all of these markings here, including a manufactured Kufi crisis. Really, the whole premise. They take over society by manufacturing an illness. Not to say something was manufactured. Just that's what happened in that individual movie. And then the chancellor moved in and takes over. And then you have to have this certain allegiance, and anybody that disagrees with the allegiance of the party is just off in the corner somewhere. And that's really what's starting to happen. So military has previously balked at surveilling service members for extremist political views due to First Amendment protections. But no, not anymore. The current administration does not care about the Constitution. They're in there. They're like King Zedekiah and Jeremiah, reading the thing, throwing it, ripping it off, and throwing it into the fire, because that's how they feel about the Constitution right now. And the crackdown on domestic extremism. Yeah, code word, red side of the aisle, quite possibly. This is a dangerous precedent. So make sure, guys, if you are on social media in the military service, that you are, I just wouldn't post anything at all. So this is kind of frightening to see that they're starting to do this. And this is really the beginning of creating an ideological army. If you remember, at the very early days of this administration, they had started to, they wanted to look into everybody, and anybody that was a supporter for Orange Man Bad was kicked out, or they were trying to kick them out or something. I didn't follow up as to what ended up happening, but there was an inquiry into which military personnel liked it. FYI, probably most of them, because people who tend to be conservative tend to be the people involved in military. It's just a generality. And I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I think both parties need to be abolished. I'm completely independent. I had at the vote couple days ago, the only thing I had is 4 constitutional amendments here for Pennsylvania. And I'm pleased to see that some of them passed, and I'm disheartened to see that some of them didn't. And so that's kind of frightening, but this is a dangerous slippery slope to be going down. And our final story in privacy before we move over into security is the data privacy that isn't. So the senators roll out a bipartisan data privacy bill. Like, hey, we finally came together, both sides of the aisle, to have a privacy bill. Guys, just like every other privacy bill, it doesn't do anything. It basically is like, you have to have your language and, your terms and conditions have to be in plain language so people can understand it. You're not reading it anyway, but so people, in the odd event somebody does read that nonsense, they can actually, quote unquote, understand it. It also stipulates if there's a data breach, then it has to notify users within 72 hours of it happening. And that's pretty much about it. If you want a data privacy protection plan, government, why don't you do this? Pass a law that without my explicit consent or my explicit use of your service, you're not allowed to own my data. Criminalize owning my data unless I explicitly gave it to you. Abolish all credit companies, because I haven't done business with Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion. They have no right or ability or reason to have my data. Abolish the concept of the credit score. Go back to actually looking if people pay their bills or not. Abolish the entire business of data sharing and data brokering and passing data back and forth between companies, and make it that if I want to say absolutely you may not have my data, then absolutely 100% you may not have my data. And for those weird cases where I've done business, I decide I want to do data, then that data has to come off all online systems. You have to have a server somewhere that is not connected to the internet. And if you need to store that data for 7 years for the purpose of records, as may be required for taxes or law, it is not available on the internet for hackers to get it all. You want a data policy, you morons over there in the White House, in the Congress building and all that? That is what you need to do. Make it illegal for any company to have any of my data without my explicit consent. This is why I blocked Facebook on my entire network, because it's not enough to Facebook that I don't have an account. They still want to track me around the whole world, be like, and track me everywhere, so I have to explicitly block them, and your average Joe does not know how to do that. So this is lip service to a privacy bill that doesn't do anything. It's nothing. It's a data privacy bill that's not data private. It's nonsense. It's useless. Go home, try again. There's my thoughts. I hope I wasn't unclear. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Well, if you want to help support the channel, one of the ways is having a look at my affiliates. And today we are highlighting Linode. This is where I'm currently hosting a lot of different things. I have an ISP config, which is an open source web panel control manager. I have several clients up there right now. It's in production. I love it. I have Jitsies up there. I've done VPNs. I've done Nextclouds, all sorts of cool stuff over on Linode. If you want to play around with Linode, you can use simple one-click packages. I have tutorials on doing VPNs and Nextcloud and stuff on this channel. Have a look at Linode. tlm.li/Linode will get you $100 for, which is good for 60 days. And then you can go ahead and give that a try. You can spin up as many Linodes as you want at the end of your trial period. Just keep the ones that you want to have, and then that will start your general billing period. Absolutely, I love Linode. I've been using it for a lot of my servers for about, I think I've been on for about 6 months now since I've been trying them out, and I've just absolutely loved the experience. And when you call them up, you actually get somebody in this country where I can actually interact with them, have a conversation with them, and I'm not on hold for a long time. So anyway, have a look at Linode, tlm.li/Linode. Now let's have a look at some security news. So first up in security is an update to the water. Remember how we had a water breach and then we had like another one a week later? Well, it turns out that there is a contractor that several water companies use that was hosting malicious code on its WordPress website. FYI guys, when you're using WordPress websites, use as minimum plugins as possible and keep those things up to date. WordPress is very good and secure as long as you keep it up to date and you do not use excessive plugins. That's really what causes the insecurity in many WordPress sites is people are like, oh, function, and you just like, I have a site, we're working on a new site for somebody right now. I looked at, they have 43 active plugins. I'm like, are you serious? So I said, we need to pare these guys down. We need to make sure we have a good update and backup strategy. And I said, this plan has to be on the backup, the monthly backup plan for me to work on it because there's so many moving parts to it. But that's really what happened is there was a contractor that several different companies were using, water supply chains were using. And it turns out that all of these water companies that were hacked, they all visited this compromised contract WordPress website within a day or so of being hacked. So if you'll remember what happened, of course, they're calling it the watering hole. It's as bad as Congress naming bills. The Safety Act. Yeah, it's the Safety Act. Yeah, I remember. Anyway, so this deals back with the one in Florida where a hacker gets into the water supply company and they try to poison the water. That's exciting, right? You don't think about that when you're like getting the water tap, you know, and how competent are the people of the water company? Are they going to detect if there's poison in the water? Someone's poisoned the water hole. So after it was found out, so an external company looked into what was going on here, and there was malicious code inside of a WordPress site, basically JavaScript inside of a footer. So you can see here is the code inside of the footer. Let's see if I can actually see that. Not really, but here's subverted code and a compromised WordPress website. So here's a snapshot of the malicious data campaign, primarily over here in Florida, but several other states and cities were utilizing the same website. Said it's just a contractor. And so basically it looks like, let's see, the fingerprinting script is gathering over 100 elements, detailed information about visitors, including operating system, CPU, browser, including languages, touch points, input methods, presence of camera, accelerometer, microphone, video card, display adapter details, time zone, geolocation, video codec, screen dimensions, browser plugins, etc. And there's a good summary at the bottom. So they focused on Florida. I think the second I think one of them was in Florida. I think one of the compromises we reported on was maybe Massachusetts or something. So it's a Florida-focused watering hole. It is a, let's see, temporal correlation to a specific event. In other words, getting onto that website. It is highly coded and sophisticated JavaScript. a few code locations on the internet, and it is specifically targeting utilizing a few different access scripts. So really, that is what happened. Is there is a vulnerable website that was a contract site. This is maybe an argument not to use contract sites in many ways. All right, so there are 4 vulnerabilities under active attack for Android devices. This sounds like horrible, but in reality, I believe with most of these, they actually have to have access to your device. So definitely worth the update, but there are some things that they can do utilizing loading of external files. Actually, you know what? I think it was a loading of an external file. I don't think they actually had to have access to your device. They just had to get you to download and execute a file, and it would allow complete root level control of your device. So, hey, there you go. Make sure you keep them things up to date. There you have it. One of the largest insurance companies paid $40 million to ransomware hackers. So they are on the rise. This is CNA Financial, one of the largest U.S. insurance companies. I've never heard of CNA Financial. Very interesting. But they paid $40 million to free itself from a ransomware attack that occurred in March. And the hackers reportedly demanded $60 million when negotiations started about a week earlier after some CNA systems were encrypted, and the insurance company paid the lower sum a week later. If the $40 million figure is accurate, CNA's payout would rank as one of the highest ransomware payouts that we know of, though it's not for lack of trying by hackers. So, of course, Apple and Acer, they had a compromise. They were asking for $50 million. Colonial Pipeline that we talked about last week had they paid $4.4 million. You know, guys, as long as we keep on paying, these scammers are going to keep doing it. If you're like, nope, sorry, and do something different, then we actually won't have these issues. So there we have it. We're empowering these guys to continue to do what they do by paying. So there you go, guys. Stop paying, have a good data mitigation plan, and have a way to get that plan back up online quickly if you need so. And on to the chief story here, Municiple Stupid Tax. Of course, if you watch Dave Ramsey, you know that stupid tax is money that you get to pay if you do something stupid. Well, there was some bloggers that keep on asking for Freedom of Information Act files from this particular individual city, and the secretaries fulfilling these requests got confused. They had received a Dropbox link which had some information internal to them right about the time they were compiling a Dropbox link to send to these bloggers who wanted the freedom of information. Well, they sent the wrong link, and they sent private data which contains some incriminating information and a few other little under the table shady deals. And they're like, hey, bonus. And then they published it. And then the city sued them to get the data offline, and they lost on appeals. I think they won the original case, but they lost on appeals. And the appellate judge said, hey, you were the stupid ones who gave out this information. So once it's accidentally out there, you can't just put the toothpaste back in the tube. You're not going to put the cat back in the bag. I know, I tried. CJ does not like going inside of bags. And with that, the judge sided with him and said, no, sorry, you released the data. It was entirely your fault. Now you got to pay up. So in order to settle this case, the city is paying $350,000 to these bloggers because they accidentally sent the wrong link. Yeah, some people should not go toward, some people just should not use computers. There's some people that would benefit greatly. Society itself would benefit greatly if many people just never touched a computer again. That would be a good thing. So this ended up being $230,000 in attorney's fees and $60,000 to each one of the bloggers in individual personal damages. So there you go, stupid tax, because they sent the wrong link to the guys. So there we have it. Well, you can help support the channel by following me over on Subscribestar. We are on Subscribestar/switchedtolinux. You can join us over there. You guys will get the links to join in on the supporter stream on Thursdays. And if I ever get around to doing part 2 of the science fiction novel, you'll get a copy of that as well. By the way, if anybody is over there on Subscribestar and has not received a copy, a digital copy of Synaptergy, and you are wanting that, definitely let me know. If you want to just buy a copy, synaptergy.com or tlm.li/s for information on that. With that, thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.